Pennsylvania Governor Ed Rendell and political strategist Angela Rye. Thank you both for joining me.
Thank you, Rev.
Governor, it's frustrating that the GOP is refusing to do their jobs, but does this represent an opportunity for the president to act?
Absolutely. The president in the past has missed opportunities, in my judgment, to be a strong leader, to convey to the American people that he's going to get things done. He's been frustrated. Sometimes you can tell he's lost patience with Congress. But now he's acting on his own, and he's acting on issues that the majority of the American people, the significant majority of the American people, agree with. So I think he's looking like a strong leader. I think that will redound to his benefit and the benefit of Democrats in the midterm election. And it'll also, as you pointed out in the last segment, be a crushing blow to Republicans. If this is the last thing that they see, this total inability to do anything about the border, if this is the last thing they see the Republican Congress do about the border problem before the election, I think that this will energize the Democratic base, the Latino base, and will make independent voters think that they're just not capable of governing.
Given their schedule, it may be the last thing. And talking about frustrating, Angela, when you look at the fact that the president himself expressed disbelief over the lawsuit the House passed last night. Watch this.
They got together in the House of Representatives, the Republicans, and voted to sue me for taking the actions that that we are doing to help families. They criticized a provision. We modify it to make it easier for business to transition, and that's the basis for their suit.
I mean, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't, Angela. I mean, this is absurd.
Rev, as you've told me in the past, I'm going to tell your pastor. But moving right along, you're absolutely right. He is. And, you know, to Governor Rendell's earlier point, he said that, you know, initially he was kind of frustrated with the president kind of, you know, taking this more calm approach to passing policy, to signing bills into law. And I think he was trying to be bipartisan. This president came in to the White House trying to be hopeful, thinking that maybe people would join hands, join together, and do what's best for the American public. And that is not the Congress that he's dealing with anymore. These are folks that will absolutely stand in the way of progress, that will absolutely just inhibit anything from going well for the American people, whether they're in their districts or not. These folks are now saying, yes, Mr. President, we're going to sue you for taking it a step too far, for using your executive power in a way that is abusive and violates the Constitution. But today, Mr. President, because we can't seem to get this border law under control and we can't seem to get agreement in our conference, we want you to use that same executive power that we just yesterday were telling you we're suing you for. These folks are crazy.
That executive action, Governor, you know, if Congress can't address immigration, President Obama says he will take action himself in a move that would grant work permits to potentially millions of immigrants and allow them to stay in the U.S. without threat of deportation. Now, the president is trying to fix a broken system, but he can't do it all by himself. In your judgment, will Congress be able to get its act together?
Not on immigration reform, and in fact, give the president high marks for waiting for Congress. He did not want to take executive action in this area because he was hoping that there'd be a comprehensive bill passed. And we should pass a comprehensive bill. Overwhelming number of Americans, and you know this, Trev, I've heard you talk about it, both including Republican voters, want immigration reform. They want a comprehensive package. They want a fair package. The president waited for the Congress to act. He waited and he waited until now it's apparent that they have no intention of doing anything this year. So the president is forced to act, and he is acting forcefully, and I think he's going to get high marks for it. He's looking like a leader. He's saying, if you won't do it, then I will, to the maximum extent of my constitutional powers, I will do what's necessary. And this is clearly an area that he has the power to do what he's asking and saying that he will do.
You know, Angela, it's immigration, but there's a lot of unfinished business the Republican Party is leaving in Washington. Minimum wage, fair pay, jobless benefits, and, of course, immigration reform. I mean, this is not a ringing endorsement for the GOP, especially right before the 2014 midterms.
Rev, and the other thing that's big for so many of us, as you know, is the Voting Rights Amendment Act.
Absolutely.
How do you go into an election where people's rights have been compromised day after day in states that were required to submit to pre-clearance before, and now those same laws are not intact? There are tons of people that can be impacted by that, and the fact that they're saying it doesn't matter, that they're not living up to what they said they were going to do in their GOP autopsy report, the fact that they're saying, Mr. President, you need to wait for us to act, and then they can't move, all of that is entirely problematic, and I hope that the American people will wake up and pay attention and realize that not only does their voice count, but so does their vote, and I hope they go to the polls.
But, Governor, as they head into the midterm, given the schedule to leave Washington, leaving all of these things unresolved, even unaddressed, from minimum wage to fair pay, on and on and on, how do you go and campaign in your districts and not be faced with some questions on some of these that even hit your own constituents if you're a conservative Republican?
Well, they better hope that they can get the far right out 100%, because they're going to need a far right overwhelming turnout, because independent voters, moderate voters, conservatives who are responsible are going to say this party just can't govern. And additionally, Rev, I love to hear this talk of impeachment, because you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the impeachment against Bill Clinton in his second term. You know that second-term presidents in the midterm election almost always lose votes in the House and the Senate. But that year, because the impeachment was so clearly a political process that the American people didn't want undertaken, they punished the Republican Party, and Democrats gained Senate seats and House seats. So I think that the more impeachment talk there is, the crazier it is. There clearly is no basis for it. The more that independent voter, the more that moderate Republican puts his hands to his head and says, I can't vote for this crew. They can't govern, and they're nuts.
That's what happened in 1998, Bill Clinton's midterm. You're right. Angela was only in kindergarten then. Governor Ed Rendell, Angela Rye, thank you both for your time tonight.
Thanks, Rev.
Still ahead, the real head of the GOP is hopping mad over impeachment. We'll show you how Republicans are trying to rewrite history. Also, the Justice Department considers stepping into a case of a police beating caught on tape. That's part of tonight's Justice Files.